basically what the trivium is. It's just a way of thinking logically, right? So what it says in here is that Plato really developed this version that is passed into our culture, although we're not taught any of this stuff in school, okay? So we're taught the opposite of the trivium. If you think about your schooling, they told you, here's the answer, memorize the answer, and we're going to test you to see if you've memorized the answer. But how many times did they teach us to think logically? Okay? So now we're going to study the heart. But we're going to remember that we're going to look at general grammar. Does everybody understand what grammar means when we talk about the heart? Mm-hmm. That's just the facts. Just the facts, ma'am. Okay? Mm-hmm. We go to a crime scene, and a good investigator is just going to look, and he's not going to assume anything. Okay? And then he's going to look at a bunch of facts, and then he's going to say, okay, so now let's start to put this together. Okay? And then he's going to tell a story, and that's rhetoric. Okay? Now, when we do the trivium, he's going to go back into the grammar, and he's going to say, now, let's re-look at the grammar. You do this every day, right? I mean, this is real familiar to you, right? So he's going to go back into the grammar, and he's going to say, does the grammar make sense to this story? Okay? And as you go back and think through things, a lot of times it doesn't make any sense because you say, that doesn't fit. Did anybody ever watch the television show back in the 70s, Columbo, with Peter Falk?
Yes.
Well, he did that all the time. I mean, that's what it is. See, that's a wonderful example of the trivium. You know, he says, sometimes I just can't get something right here, you know? Mm-hmm. And he's kind of playing this goofy detective, and I'm really slow. Well, he's not. He's brilliant. You see, he just knows that things don't fit, all right? So now we're just going to hold that cool story in mind, and we're going to talk about the heart, okay? So now we're going to remember that in the beginning here, I'm going to talk about grammar, okay? So cholesterol. Now we automatically go to the story. We go to the end because we're trained to go to the end, right? What's the end? What's the rhetoric on cholesterol? What is cholesterol? What is cholesterol? Tell people to start talking about what cholesterol is.
Build in the arteries.
See, that's the story. See, that's the end story. Okay? Anybody else?
Sticky plaster.
What's that?
It's sticking plaster on the intestines.
Well, see, you know too much already. You see, it's the cause of heart disease, right? Mm. That's the rhetoric. See, if we haven't talked about cholesterol in specifically, we've been brainwashed to go to the story, to the end, to the rhetoric. And then so everybody knows that cholesterol causes heart disease, right? We know that. And do you know how we know that?
The doctors tell us.
We've been told that, right? That's the story. That's the end. That's the rhetoric. So now I want everybody to understand the picture, the way we've been herded along to get to the story. We're going to step back. And today, I'm not going to I don't have an opinion at the end. Now, that's ridiculous because we all have opinions, right? We all come with bias. But what I'm going to be talking about is just grammar. We might get to a little bit of logic, but I'm not going to do rhetoric when we're talking about heart. In other words, I'm not going to tell the story. Does that make sense? So, you don't have to memorize any of the things that I'm saying, but I do. Anything that's bizarre, go to our website because it's all on the website. Okay? So cholesterol, what it really is an anti-inflammatory molecule. Okay, it's getting rid of inflammation. That's one of its jobs. Okay? It's also the precursor. So in other words, your body has cholesterol. It uses cholesterol and needs sulfur. And then we go out into the sun, hopefully. We're told not to go out in the sun because that's the rhetoric, okay? What the grammar tells us, be in the sun a lot. Because we take cholesterol in our body, and we have to have enough sulfur. And when we do, when we go out in the sun hits our skin and turns into vitamin D, which is profoundly healthy and important, right? We're told, just understand the story, we're told not to go in the sun. So just think about that for a second, okay? We also have cholesterol in our body. We have some sulfur, and it turns into the hormones that make me a man, you a woman. It's the hormones that make us healthy. We like cholesterol now, don't we? Okay? We eat some fat. Fat can't get into the blood, so it has to have something to wrap around it called a micelle, carry it into the blood. Well, that's bile. How do we make bile? The body has some cholesterol, takes some other things, sulfur being the big one, turns it into bile. If we don't have enough cholesterol, we don't have enough bile, we don't digest fats very well, and the story, so that's grammar, and then we can just kind of continue with that story too. So our brain is pretend like I'm holding a handful of wires. It's all mixed around, except they really look like they're just chaotic, but they're really organized well. Well, they have to have the plastic around the wire, right? The insulation. Okay. Well, our brain is a network of, could look like confusing, but it's really an organized network of wires and beautiful stuff with a sheath around it called the myelin sheath, the insulation. Any guesses what the insulation is made of? Mostly cholesterol. How about that? Okay. Every cell in our body, and we'll just talk about muscle cells because this is going to be real right to the point, has a cell membrane of, what do you think? Cholesterol. Right? How can this cause heart disease? Doesn't make any sense. Okay. So now we're just going to go back to some grammar. Okay, we're going to hold that. There's more to that story. I could go on and on about more cool stuff about cholesterol. Oh, I'll say one more thing. So if I have inflammation, okay, we want something that's an anti-inflammatory, right? Vitamin C, for example. Vitamin C is an anti-inflammatory. It gets rid of inflammation. Okay. If I have a cut right here and it gets infected, well, that's inflamed. Okay? And then I go like this and it opens up and it starts bleeding, and if it doesn't heal well, if I don't have enough vitamin C in my body and it heals well, then every time I go like that, it gets infected. Okay? Or it's infected and then it bleeds. Right? But if I have enough vitamin C and cholesterol, I've got an anti-inflammatory thing that's going to heal that cut. Okay, so now remember inflammation, okay? Cholesterol fights inflammation. All right, so now we're gonna hold that whole story. We're just gonna kind of let it kind of roam around here, and we'll stew on that for a minute. But since we're all brilliant people here, we can think of two things at once, okay?